And a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show. My name is Kwe. Now, lesser designs have progressed over the years from straightforward spots and borders to a huge assortment of elaborate patterns of all imaginable motifs and colors. Now, lesser designs have also changed with the times. Many designs today are bigger, bolder, and have stronger colors. Lessers have been around for a very long time, and let's check out what we have for you today in store on Mid Morning Lifestyle.
The Kenyan fashion industry has grown in leaps and bounds over the past few years, thanks to the continued determination by local fashion designers to remain relevant in this continuously changing and evolving industry. To make an impact, designers often find themselves struggling to set trends by creating unique designs using the latest fabrics and styles without alienating or overlooking spending patterns. There is one Kenyan designer who is innovatively taking this principle to heart and successfully applying it. Rosanna Witty Home has revolutionized the fashion industry by using the traditional kanga in a more contemporary fashion. The kanga is a silkscreen printed fabric made of cotton that usually has a slogan or proverb printed on its border. The kanga's dynamism and versatility are just some of the reasons that make it popular with customers. Having grown up seeing it being used as a baby carrier, shawl and apron, Rosanne decided to experiment to see what more she could do with the kanga. So she first designed a blouse, which when she wore fascinated people and drew a myriad of compliments, so much so that she realized that there was a ready market just waiting to be tapped. And since for her this was coming full circle, Dwara, her design label, was born.
Dwara came about with, it was an evening session where my sister and I were actually just messing around with kangas, really not doing anything constructive. And essentially the first Dwara I made was I folded a kanga into half, cut the neckline so my head could go through, and stitched the side so I could have space for my arms. And that is where it came from. That's the first Dwara. I chose the word Dwara because Dwara is a Swahili word that means circle. And for me, I feel I have come full circle. Likewise, the kanga has come full circle.
Rosanne, who is however a trained scientist, refers to Dwara designs her it because dressmaking and fashion design has always fascinated her. In high school, she studied home economics, and unlike her colleagues, she enjoyed needlework, and thus the shift from the sciences to the arts seemed like a quest to fulfill an inward desire. Dwara has made its way into many Kenyans' wardrobes by way of dresses, tops, skirts, and kaftans. And the fact that people are appreciating Kenyans by Kenyan for Kenyans is an inspiration to Rosanne.
For me, the best form of marketing is actually having people wear the clothes. Because when you see somebody with your body type, your height, your skin tones, and they look nice in a kanga of a particular style, they will then look for the person who made that kanga and have one made for themselves.
She sources her kanga fabrics locally and from neighboring Tanzania, which she says has more variety.
Generally, Dwara is for the African woman, as part of our identity, as part of, who we really are. With Dwara, what we have done is that we have taken an ethnic fabric and contemporized it based on the style and cut of the items. So you cannot really, as long as you wear clothes, you can wear Dwara.
Rosanna is steadfast in her desire to apply sound business principles that will see Dwara grow to become a recognized Kenyan brand name. She mostly manages all the administrative and operational functions of the business.
The main challenge is changing people's perspective of the kanga. I see a kanga and I automatically sometimes see a skirt or I see a top, or sometimes I'll get a kanga and just look at it and be like, wow, what a pretty kanga, but I don't know what to do with it. But I still will, I will not just tie it around my waist and, call it a day. See, so once we have that perspective changed, then I don't know, that for me works.
Rosanna also takes pride in the fact that local celebrities are adopting her designs, and more notably, the 2005 Cora Award winner Neema, who received an award dressed in an original Dwara design. Though imitation may be the best form of flattery in the fashion business, Rosanna says her business is innovative because of her unique designs. She does not view competition as a threat, but a healthy way to star growth.
Take your time to discover what it is that is your it. And when you do discover it, stick to it. It doesn't matter, it may be discouraging, and it usually is sometimes. You get discouraged, but stick to it. Stick to it. And surround yourself with positive people. People who will encourage you.
And as Rosanna strategizes for the future, guided by ever-changing fashion trends, one thing is certain: Dwara is indeed coming full circle.
I want to revolutionize the kanga, like jeans. The way people wear jeans is the way I want people to wear Dwara.
Stay tuned for Right at Home, which is coming up next.
There are advocates or lawyers who choose to specialize on conveyancing, and so such advocates are the ones a client should actually go and seek advice from. And my advice would be a client would need in any transaction, be it a mortgage or purchase of sale of land or a house, property, whatever it is, a purchaser should actually go to an advocate from the very onset, at the time of them seeking to purchase, so that an advocate should be involved from the very onset in terms of getting to know the background of the vendor, undertaking the relevant searches, and just doing the due diligence and the background work of the property, so that should there be any hitch or any issue that may arise at the time of conducting the searches, the advocate will be able to be in a position to pick it up and advise the client appropriately, and then they would either choose to either proceed or rectify the issue, or the same can be addressed at that particular juncture. So generally, yes, advocates can, as long as an advocate has a practicing certificate, they can handle conveyancing matters, but there are those who have actually chosen to specialize in conveyancing. Searches are very important, and we have two kinds of searches. There's a searches that you do at the land registry. Now, it will really let you know so much on the land in terms of the history of the land, the true ownership of the land, whether the land is encumbered in any manner, or whether it is charged. By encumbered, I mean whether it has a charge or a mortgage or maybe a caveat that has been placed, whether there are other third-party interests on that particular parcel of land. And it also lets you know whether this land actually exists, because as it is right now, you have so many fake titles going around. Then where the company is involved, it's also important to undertake a search at the company registry. So this search will establish the directors of a company and the shareholders, because some people can actually claim they're selling property in the name of a certain company, and when you conduct a search at the lands office, you actually find out that it's actually under the name of that company. But when you go to the company's registry, you establish that the directors are actually different from the people who are actually fronting the sale. If it is a caveat, we have had issues where somebody can purchase a property or rather put a deposit on a purchaser that on a property that has as an issue like a caveat, but then we'll assist now the owner of the land to lift the caveat. If this caveat has actually been placed on monetary issues, where the person who placed the caveat probably had some money that was owed to him by the previous, or the owner of the land. So where you have land and it has a caveat and you feel like this caveat can be lifted, if the person who had placed the caveat can be, has money paid off or it can be settled off, then that can be done. But there are issues that cannot be settled. For example, where a wife has placed a caveat on family land and they do not want this land sold off, or it's a This money cannot be actually raised to pay off the mortgage. So there are issues on the encumbrances on our title that can actually be sorted out even after you've more or less come in and paid a deposit. However, there are those that are a bit difficult, and you may have to either terminate, withdraw, and now push to get your refund back. Now, considering the role the advocate plays in every transaction, I would think it would be one of the costs a purchaser or a buyer should really look into when they're either disposing of or purchasing land, considering the paramount issues, the role they play. It is actually quite a very important role. Then we are governed by the Advocates Remuneration Order, where all these fees are outlined. So there would not be much of an issue in saying that when you're looking at an advocate, it's an issue of cost, considering they play a very important role, in my opinion, because they'd actually save you more costs. Yeah, should you have lost a land, or should you have entered into a land that was probably a transaction that was fraudulent. The very onset, especially when it comes to off-plan purchases, there is the contract, because what you're buying is you're buying something off-plan, probably by looking at a model or an approved drawing. The land probably at that particular time, probably even the construction work has not commenced. So at that particular stage, what you will have is a contract. And in that contract, where your advocate comes in is to interpret the clauses and to negotiate for you and ensure that there are provisions that have been set out in that agreement, ensuring that your interests are protected in the manner that should there be a delay, for example, you get to get paid interest, or should you decide to withdraw out of no fault of your own, or maybe because of the vendor's delay or default on his end, then you can get your refund back together with an agreed interest on top, so that you don't come out there as a loser.
Now, the main aim of Eve Sisters is to lobby the next generation of influencers of society. Stay tuned for Eve Sisters coming up next.
We will begin by looking at what do employers want. Because if we don't know what they want, then we cannot sell them the right product. I want to look at school and what success looks like in school. And the thing I want to leave you with is that what you need to succeed in school is very different from what you need to succeed at work. And for me, this is the only part of the university curriculum that I feel there is a gap, because nobody really answers that question of, is what I am learning in school directly transferable to the work world? And often you will find that there's a dissonance. So we'll talk about that. So let's look at the qualities of a good student. You can see them and you can tell them. You've got to be diligent, isn't it? We used to get report cards that say, so-and-so is a very diligent student, very hardworking. Those are the qualities. You've got to have some high intelligence, isn't it? For you to absorb all this new material, understand the curriculum, and actually be able to produce a result. Even that cramming power, there needs to be something in the brain to absorb the things you're trying to cram. You've got to be self-motivated, isn't it? Especially in university. There's no teacher to ask, did you do your homework? You either decide you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, whether you're going to do it at the last minute or whether you're going to invest time in doing it. You've got to have an appreciation of theory, because what are you learning? Theoretical principles, isn't it? Yeah. And you've got to have a willingness to learn. Somebody talked about it. You've got to be interested. What does work require? What does success at work require? And here I've just put a few of the items, yeah? And I want you to see that the list is almost double. So if you're wondering what is the gap between what I've got to offer and what is required, it is that list. And I'll read it out for you. We call it a can-do attitude. I can do, yeah? You don't want to hire a person who, for every single extra assignment or every difficulty they encounter, their first response is, I don't think I will be able to do this. You want somebody who is open to challenge. So their mindset is always, it is possible. They do not approach the project or the assignment from a position of impossibility and difficulty. Very important. If there's anything that you should portray to your interviewer, it is the can-do attitude. The next one is competitive. I know we are here in campus and we all want to pass, but it's not very competitive. It's sort of like, so long as I get the pass grade, I'll be okay. But at work, it's about, I need to be the best. So if you have not gotten yourself into that model of aspiring to be the best, it's not enough that I pass. I need to be the best in that sociology class or among the best in that medical class, whatever it is that we are studying. Work is competitive. Why? Because I'm standing here as Barclays, and I know tomorrow Stanchart will be standing here also competing for you, and the next day NIC will be here competing for you. It is a competition. And that is why you're always encouraged to participate in sports and such activities which are competitive, so that you build your competitive edge. Are we together? Leadership abilities. Leadership. And that is normally a very big and broad word. And now let's talk about campus. I told you I was secretary to swimming club. Very mundane thing. But guess what? I held a leadership position. I was secretary. I was not ordinary member. I saw some leaders here when we started. Do you know those ladies are leaders? Do you know I noted them? Yes, because they are taking on extra responsibility to make this occasion happen. That is how you start to lead. Don't wait until you get a position that says manager. You begin becoming manager so that then the title is given to you. And even when you get into the work world, become the manager before you're given the title. Lead without title. Very, very important. Self-motivation, energy, and enthusiasm. Because you're being hired to solve problems. If you're the kind of person who is overwhelmed by problems, you do not have enough energy to push through your agenda, you will not go far. So even how you talk should convey whether you have had breakfast or you have not. Don't whisper and you have the mic and I'm saying I can't hear. You don't need the mic in the first place. Energy, enthusiasm, passion for what you're doing and what you're wanting to achieve. The other quality is you need to be great at relationships. And now, this is not great at relationships with your best friend. This is great at relationships with anyone that you meet. You need to be able to step out of yourself and be the first one who reaches out and says, hi, I'm so-and-so. What do you do? Take an interest in people. How do you build that capability? You build it by involving yourself in teams and in groups. If you just continue hanging out with your best friend, then you're not really building your relationship skills. We build our relationship skills by interacting with people who are different from us. Different from us. So for as long as you're hanging out with someone who is the same as you, be knowing you're not building relationships. And it is a very critical skill. And normally, as you become more senior in the work world, you're selected or your success is based on your relationships. Because everybody has the qualifications. So there's nothing to brag about. Yeah? Anyone who's been hired has the minimum criteria. Anyone who's working there is succeeding. They're doing a good job. So the question is, why should you be put above them? It is how good you are at building relationships and therefore being able to influence people to deliver what you're required to deliver.
Girls run the world, girls who run the world, girls who run the world, girls who run the world, girls. We run the world. Who run the world, girls, girls.
The lasso was used for just about anything. It was used as a wraparound over clothing, as an apron, as a swaddle for carrying babies, a mat, a tablecloth, seat covers, and a lot more. Now, over the years, the use of the lasso has changed. It's now becoming a popular item of clothing worn by both the young and the old. Now, this was not the case a few years ago. The lasso is being used to make dresses, skirts, tops, and even trousers. Women now look very trendy in dresses made from lassos, and many designers have built entire brands solely from the use of the lasso. Now, what was once a piece of cloth that was worn indoors can now be seen as dresses on many women. Now, on Mid-Morning, it is midmorning at standardmedia.co.ke. That is our address. You can also get in touch with us through our Facebook page, KTM Mid-Morning. We do look forward to your feedback. It's goodbye for now.